In this tutorial, we're going to talk about the edit tool functions and the edit mode features and how those work hand in hand together. So at the toolbar, right next to our edit modes, are our standard 6 editing tools. The first one is the zoomer tool. The zoomer tool allows you to zoom in and out of a particular area within the track or the session. It has 2 modes, normal and single mode. So you can switch either and choose normal zoom or single zoom. The normal zoom mode remains selected after zooming. The single zoom mode goes back to the previously selected tool that you were using before you went to the zoom tool. So for example, if I had the selector tool and then I went to the single zoom and clicked on my session, you can see it automatically went back to the selector tool after using it. If I was in normal zoom, I would come into my session, see the magnifying glass, click, and it would keep zooming but stay on the zoom tool. To zoom out, you would use the modifier option to change the direction of the zoom. Another way to use the zoomer tool is to zoom in on a particular waveform. If you click and drag a marquee around the waveform that you want to zoom in on and let go of the mouse, it will fill the edit screen window with that particular zoomed in selection. The next tool to the right of the zoom tool is the trimmer tool. We're going to use the standard trim tool in this exercise so I can show you how it works in conjunction with all of the other clips in the track. So for example, let's take this backing vocal clip that's here in the edit window. When I have the trimmer tool on a specific clip, it emulates the direction of the end of the clip in which it's going to trim from. So if I was to click right here on this clip and move in and out of the end of the clip, you'll see a yellow marquee showing where that clip is going to trim the end of its clip from. Incidentally, it also changes to the beginning of the clip. You can only trim in or trim out the length of the clip as long as the audio file is recorded on the disc. If I wanted to change the direction of the trim tool, I would hold the modifier key of Option or Alt, and it would change the direction. So if I wanted to trim the end of the clip to this location right here on that waveform, I would hold the Option key, click, and let go, and it would trim that region right to that place where I'd selected. The next tool over from the trim tool is the selector tool. The selector tool selects horizontally and vertically in the edit window, allowing selections to go across multiple tracks in just one operation. So I can click and hold my mouse down and drag to the right to make a selection, or drag downwards vertically to increase that selection. Once I let go, I have that selection, and if I try to extend it, it won't allow me to. So if I have that selection and I want to add to it, use the Pro Tools modifier Shift, and you can increase or change that selection. The next tool over from the selector tool is the grabber tool. You can use it to select an entire clip with just one click of your mouse. With that, you can also move clips anywhere else in the track or anywhere else in the session. If you double click with the grabber tool, you have the option of renaming the clip. And again, if your names are not showing in your clips list or on the edit window, you can go up to the View menu, Clip, and Show Name. The scrubber tool is the next tool that's to the right of the grabber tool, and it looks like a little speaker. With the scrub tool, it emulates playback of tape on a playhead. So you can see I'm scrubbing the audio to find an exact location of where I want to edit. The speed of the scrub tool is dependent upon how fast or slow you move your mouse and in which direction, left or right. To the right of the scrub tool is the pencil tool. The pencil tool is variable by 7 different shapes: freehand, line, triangle, square, random, parabolic, and S-curve. While these don't work in an audio session so well, the pencil tool is the only tool within Pro Tools that allows you to draw in MIDI controller information without actually having a MIDI controller. So now that we know how our edit tools work, let's talk about how they work in conjunction with the edit modes. The edit modes are at the top left-hand side of the toolbar. You'll see shuffle, slip, spot, grid. These are your 4 standard editing modes. So let's talk about what they do. Shuffle is the first mode, and it's in red. In shuffle mode, your clip movement is constrained by other clips and their location. So any changes that you do make on a track using shuffle mode is going to change the placement of the subsequent clips on that track. So for example, if I wanted to take this ambient clip and put it between these 2 ambient clips here in the intro track, this one and this one, when I click and use the grabber tool to drag it upwards between those 2, it's actually going to insert time in that track and push the 3 behind that yellow line in the track downwards in time. So shuffle mode never leaves a gap in between clips. It always stacks them one after the other. So if I'm looking at this session and I actually didn't want space here, I could move these clips forward in time by clicking and dragging them with the grabber tool, moving them forward without a gap in between them. The next mode is slip mode. In slip mode, you can move, trim, paste, cut clips freely within a track without affecting the placement or inserting or deleting time between clips. So in slip mode, if I was to take the ambient track and move it back down here and decide that I wanted to move it between these 2 in the timeline of the intro track here, up around bar 35, when I click and drop it and place it in there, you can see it's going to put that clip there in its entirety, yet cover up the remaining clips that were underneath or in that track previously. When I move it away from those clips, the original clips are restored on the track. The thing that you have to be careful about using slip mode is if you're editing and move a clip and place it on top of another clip and then move it away, it's going to leave a gap in the original clip. It's not really a problem. You can undo it and always get it back, or retrim out the parts of the clip using the trimmer tool. So slip mode is probably one of the most common modes to use in editing because you can take clips and almost free-form move them any place in the track. The next mode we'll talk about is spot mode, and that is perfect for moving or placing clips at a precise designated location by choosing where that is in the spot dialog box. Anytime you're in spot mode and click on a clip in order to move it, this dialog box will come up, and it's going to ask you where you want to start, sync, or end that clip to. Again, your time scale is always going to reflect what your main time scale is for the session, and in this case it's bars and beats. I can change that, however, and change it to minutes and seconds, or any other time scale that I have chosen here by just clicking and selecting it. So let's say that I wanted to move this to location bar 37. So I could type in 37 in the dialog box, say OK, and it's now moved that clip to bar 37. If I wanted the end of this clip to be at bar 37, I would just tell it that I want the end to be at bar 37. Grid mode is the last mode that we'll talk about, and in standard grid mode you can edit anywhere on the track in the edit window dependent upon the interval of the time scale that you have selected. So in our case of this current session that we have, our main time scale is set to bars and beats. So our grid values over here in the toolbar are selected based on note values. As you go in and you start to change the time scales of the grids, it's going to give you different increment selections and change the display in the edit window. Typically with musical selections, we stick with bars and beats, so we can move everything in a designated note value. So currently my display is showing quarter note values. So if I move a clip, it's moving it a quarter note at a time within the selection. If I wanted to change it to full bars, now every time I move a clip, it's going to change it to full bar movements and snap to that grid. Another type of function of grid, if you click on it, there's a pop-up menu and there's relative grid. And in relative grid, clips are moved and trimmed by grid units. So it won't adhere or snap to the absolute grid that's displayed, however, move it by a grid value from its current location. So to demonstrate how relative grid works, I'm going to move this ambient clip in between bars 26 and 27. Its defined location is at bar 26, beat 2, tick 879. If I wanted to move it one bar later from its current location, I can click and move the clip with the grabber tool, and now it will be one bar later. Bar 27, beat 2, tick 879. So it won't adhere to the absolute grid, but use the grid as a value. One of the nicest features of working with the edit modes is the ability to combine and use two at one time. For example, if I was in grid mode and I wanted to temporarily suspend it to use slip mode, I would just select grid mode here for my edit modes, and you can see that I'm actually snapping to those 1 bar increments. Let me zoom in so you can see that. But if I hold the command key on a Mac, I can actually move that clip and it won't snap to the grid. So holding command temporarily suspends grid mode. So command on Mac, control on Windows. And then when I let it go and let go of the command key, it resumes and goes back to regular grid mode. Another feature of combining two modes at once is being able to use the benefits of shuffle with grid. So you can combine shuffle and slip along with grid and make them work together. So you can have a clip benefit from working within other clips with shuffle and stacking them one behind another, but it would also adhere to being in grid mode and snap to the grid absolute values.